Getting high quality sleep is probably the most effective way to improve overall health and performance. And one of the easiest and most straightforward ways to accomplish this is by leveraging a handful of nutrients and supplements that are known to improve sleep quality. And so in this video, we're going to be talking about the supplements and the nutrients that are most proven to improve sleep quality. So let's go ahead and dive in.
Hey, are you awake? Yeah. I just want you to know I hate you, and so does my dad.
Now, the first supplement that I want to talk about is probably the most popular and most talked about supplement on this list, and that is magnesium. However, because magnesium is so well established as a natural sleep aid, I less so want to talk about the literature surrounding its effectiveness and more so want to talk about the mechanisms of action as to why it is so effective as a natural sleep aid. Now, magnesium is obviously an essential mineral that your body needs to operate properly. However, it does have some very specific functions in regards to nerve function and specifically in regards to the activity of the NMDA receptor. Now, the NMDA receptor is a very specific subset of receptors for the neurotransmitter glutamate, which acts as the primary stimulatory neurotransmitter in the central nervous system. However, the main thing to note here is that when the NMDA receptor is overstimulated by glutamate, it causes excitotoxicity as well as symptoms of anxiety, stress, and things of that nature. What magnesium does specifically is to partially inhibit the influx of calcium into cells via the NMDA receptor, and because of this prevents excitotoxicity as well as feelings of anxiety and stress, which obviously is going to lead to improvements in sleep parameters and sleep quality. Now, secondarily to its effects at the NMDA receptor, magnesium also appears to be effective at enhancing the effects of GABA in the central nervous system, which is your primary inhibitory neurotransmitter that is responsible for reducing feelings of and actively reducing feelings of anxiety and stress. Now, the reason for this is that GABA and glutamate are somewhat antagonistic in nature in the central nervous system. When one is active, it actively suppresses the activity of the other. And so because magnesium is somewhat effective at reducing the activity of one of the glutamate receptors, it creates less resistance for GABA to carry out its inhibitory biological effects. Now, it's also worth pointing out here that it doesn't really appear as though it really matters at what point of the day you actually take a magnesium supplement. It's typically recommended that you take a magnesium supplement just before bed in order to improve sleep quality. However, it does appear just as long as you're meeting your daily magnesium requirements that you can actually still improve overall sleep quality just by meeting your daily magnesium needs. Now, this is also good to know because it's important to note that humans have never really consumed massive boluses of magnesium supplementally like we do today. It's much more historically accurate and anthropologically appropriate for us to consume magnesium throughout the entirety of the day through things like magnesium-rich spring water, which is why I'm a really big fan of just simply putting some sort of magnesium salt in your water supply throughout the day in order to improve and increase your daily magnesium intake through this manner. I'm a really big fan of trying to mimic the ways that our ancestors would have gathered or ingested certain nutrients, which is also why today's video is sponsored by Armra Colostrum. Now, Armra has been getting a ton of attention lately over on the interwebs as of late, and it's for good reason. Colostrum is essentially a hyper-concentrated form of a lot of the bioactives that are actually found in raw milk that has been historically used and is extremely well studied for its potential to regulate immune function, improve recovery time, and improve gut health. And Armra Colostrum specifically goes through the meticulous process of responsibly sourcing and processing their colostrum through a cold processing method in order to maintain the bioactives of their product. And this is one of the things that most impresses me about Armra. Not only are they collecting and processing their colostrum in such a way as to retain the bioactivity of their colostrum, but they're also going so far as to collect it from local farms And on top of that, colostrum is extremely well studied. And so if this is something that you're interested in, make sure to check out the link down below or go to tryarmra.com/nutrition library for 15% off of your order and to support this channel. Now, the second supplement that we're going to talk about here is an amino acid known as L-glycine. And now glycine probably actually has more evidence to support its effects on sleep quality than magnesium does. And because of this, we're not going to spend a lot of time going through the evidence to support its effectiveness, but we're going to dive more so into why glycine actually improves sleep quality. Now, the first thing that's worth noting here is that even though glycine is a dietary amino acid, it's also an endogenously produced neurotransmitter with its own receptor sites known as glycine receptors. Now, glycine, like GABA, is a very inhibitory neurotransmitter system in the central nervous system. However, unlike GABA, is much more narrow in its scopes of effects, where GABA is very broad in its effects and is overall inhibitory in nature. Glycine is much more specific in that it reduces breathing rate and reduces things like bodily temperature, which are essential to inducing effective sleep. Now, your body can create glycine in order to meet various biological needs in the body. However, it is fairly well established that your body is unable to create enough glycine in order to meet basic bodily functions. And so because of this, it's extremely important to ingest enough glycine to meet biological needs. And if you do not do this, it does appear as though there is a reduction in sleep quality secondarily to not getting enough glycine through the diet. Now, there are a handful of ways to get more glycine through the diet. One is to simply eat more collagen protein. Collagen is the primary source of glycine through the diet, and so eating things like joints, ligaments, and tendons from animal products is one of the primary ways, things like bone broth as well, some of the primary ways to increase your dietary intake of glycine. However, if you're not doing something like this, consuming something like a collagen supplement can also be a fantastic way of increasing your overall glycine intake. Now, if you're not going to do either of those things, there's also a cheaper way to do this, which is just simply to take a glycine supplement or to even supplement with something like magnesium glycinate, which is just simply a magnesium and glycine molecule kind of like stuck together. This is cheaper, however, you will miss out on some of the other amino acids that are contained in collagen and collagen supplements. However, this is also an effective way to improve sleep quality if your primary objective is to do so. Now, when it comes to glycine intake and when to time your glycine intake, it also doesn't appear like magnesium. It really matters what time of the day you take glycine. There is some research to indicate that even when you take glycine in the morning time, it still improves sleep quality, which when you think about it, doesn't make a ton of sense. If glycine is an actual neurotransmitter, an inhibitory neurotransmitter, it would make sense that if you were to take something like glycine during the day, that it would cause an immediate drowsiness and then wouldn't carry over into the evening time. However, it does appear that as just so long as you're increasing your daily intake of glycine, that it actually allows for your central nervous system to have more substrates available in the evening time to produce glycine when it really matters, and it's actually trying to initiate inhibitory functions like sleep. Now, the third supplement that I want to talk about here is another amino acid like glycine. Obviously is a different amino acid, so it's not the same thing, but that is the amino acid L-theanine. Now, L-theanine is primarily found in green tea and is extremely unique in that it is non-proteogenic, it's non-essential, but it's also an amino acid that your body cannot create or metabolize through any other process. And so literally the only way to get L-theanine is by drinking some sort of tea or by taking some sort of supplement containing L-theanine. Now, what makes L-theanine extremely unique is that it has the ability to actually raise the levels of GABA in the central nervous system, which again, because GABA is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the central nervous system, when you consume something like L-theanine that increases GABA levels, it will immediately induce feelings of relaxation, which has been shown in a clinical setting to to improve sleep quality. Now, L-theanine primarily appears to do this by increasing levels of an enzyme known as GAD, which is the enzyme responsible for the production of GABA. And so because L-theanine is able to increase levels of this enzyme, as long as there is substrate available for the production of GABA, GABA levels will increase and subsequently increase feelings of relaxation, reduce feelings of anxiety, and according to clinical research, improve sleep quality as well. Now, L-theanine is somewhat interesting in that lower intakes of L-theanine actually appear to be more inhibitory in nature, and as you increase your intake, L-theanine starts to kind of have some interactions with dopamine, which may make it actually more stimulating in higher doses. And so I do typically recommend to most of my clients that if they're going to take something like L-theanine, to stick in the 50 to 100 milligram range, which is something that you can get from something like decaffeinated green tea. However, because there's also some anti-androgenic compounds that are found in tea, I typically like to recommend that most of my clients take a supplemental form of L-theanine, simply because there's literally no other dietary source of L-theanine than either green tea or a supplement. Now, it should also be noted that L-theanine is absolutely not an essential amino acid. Your body does not need it to operate properly or to sleep well, like is the case with things like L-glycine and the mineral magnesium. Your body does need those nutrients to operate well and to sleep well. L-theanine is very unique in that your body doesn't need it at all, but does also have beneficial effects on sleep parameters when you do take it. And so if you want to take L-theanine, you can, but again, it's just not absolutely necessary. Now, the next supplement on our list, which I'll cover very briefly here because there's really no clinical evidence to support the fact that it can improve sleep quality, and that is taurine. Now, taurine is similar to L-theanine in that it also appears to be active on the GABA receptors, and even though there's no clinical research to support the effects of taurine on sleep parameters, there is some in rodents, and there is a ton of anecdotal evidence on the interwebs to suggest that taurine can in fact improve at least symptoms of anxiety. Now, the added benefit of taurine is that it is a functional amino acid in the body. It has other functions aside from reducing symptoms of stress and anxiety and improving sleep parameters. It's also a very potent antioxidant and may also improve cognitive function and physical performance. And so because of this, I always like to throw taurine on this list, simply because, one, it's an extremely healthy amino acid that's worth prioritizing in your diet. But if you're also looking for some added benefits to sleep, anxiety, and just overall health, it's also a good compound to simply supplement with as well. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much all I have for this video. If you have any questions or comments or scathing remarks, please feel free to leave a comment or a question down below if they're not disabled by then. And make sure to always check out all the links down below for some cool products, for some Armra, for some coaching, educational resources. All the cool stuff's down there. So make sure to check that out, and I will see you guys next time.